What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Leviathan Ranks, and today we're out here with the college football playoff predicting who's going to win it all. All right, so let's start with the lowest seed. So that would be James Madison taking on Oregon in Oregon. Although James Madison is a phenomenal group of five team, I don't think they can compete with Oregon. So Oregon moves on. Next, we'll jump over to number 11, Tulane. Again, Tulane is a very good group of five team, but I don't think they can compete with Ole Miss, even without Lane Kiffin being the coach, because all the players are still there fighting for their national championship. So I think Ole Miss will move on. Now we're moving on to Miami. Miami is taking on Texas A&M. Now we're getting into more nitty-gritty. Texas A&M was a undefeated team until they took on Texas and lost. Miami, very up and down throughout the season, barely got into the college football playoff. I believe they can compete, but I think Texas A&M will end up winning that one. All right, moving now to 9 and 8. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Oklahoma already beat Alabama earlier this season. However, this is later in the season. They would hopefully have learned from their mistakes. So I definitely would put Alabama over Oklahoma. Okay, moving on now into the quarterfinals. Again, starting with the lowest seed, which is the number 9, Alabama, taking on number 1, Indiana. Now, Indiana is undefeated. They're the only undefeated team. They have the Heisman winning quarterback. However, Indiana really hasn't played anybody except for beating Ohio State, except for barely beating Penn State. Other than that, they really haven't played anybody. So I don't know if Indiana can compete with an SEC team who is proven. So we're going to throw in Alabama, upsetting kind of number 1. Okay, moving on now to who'd be next. 7, Texas A&M taking on Ohio State. Ohio State, very good football team. Texas A&M, very good football team. However, when we look at the only head-to-head, Ohio State beat Texas. Texas blew out Texas A&M, so I've got to give the edge to Ohio State. Going now to 6, Ole Miss versus Georgia. I think we all know how that goes. Georgia wins. Then moving on to Oregon versus Texas Tech. Oregon, good program. Texas Tech, good program. I don't know. I only watched one game of Texas Tech this year. So I really don't know. I know they have that really good linebacker or defensive end or something. But other than that, I don't really know what they have in the tank. So I'm going to go with a Oregon victory here. Okay, so now we have SEC versus Big Ten, SEC versus Big Ten. We're going to start with the lower seed. So Alabama taking on Oregon. I don't think it's close. So Alabama moves on. Ohio State versus Georgia. Now this one is going to be close. This one's going to be like, what was it? New Year's Eve 3 years ago. Georgia and Ohio State going back to back and just back and forth all the way up until the very end for Ohio State to miss a field goal. And wouldn't you know it, Ohio State's kicker is that same guy missing field goals. Georgia goes on. We have SEC championship in the playoffs for the national championship. And who won that? I think Georgia? That makes sense because they're number 3. Georgia wins. Hate to see it. They're the national champions once again. That's predicted by me, Leviathan Ranks. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe because I post amazing content like this all the time. And comment, who do you think is going to win it all? Do you think James Madison or Tulane have a chance? Let me know. Other than that, that's all I have. So thank you all so much for watching. Bye.